he said he couldn't take care of it any longer.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting, open the Selectmen's meeting August 12th at 6 p.m. Second on the agenda is to approve the minutes of July 22nd.
First, we gotta take attendance, roll call attendance.
Oh, not on the right page, Lori.
That's all right. We had one public meeting and we fell into the old ways already.
I know. Pat Briggs.
Here.
Ed Hutchins.
Here.
Mike Weston.
Here.
Alan Daggett.
Here.
And I'm here. Okay. Item 2, approve the July 22nd Selectmen's meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor, and that would be Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
and I approve. Item 3, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda. Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Sheila. I think it's important for everyone in town to know that Laurie has received the highest award. It comes from the Maine Municipal Association, the Link Stackpole Manager of the Year Award. It's given out once a year to the outstanding manager in the state of Maine. And this year, Laurie was nominated by us and was vetted very carefully by the Maine Municipal Association and received the award. But I think it goes far greater and deeper than that. If you have worked with her and seen the difficulties we've had to face in the last year, I remember thinking back when I was about 14 months ago, Alan Daggett and I were sitting there in Laurie's office thinking, geez, this pandemic has really been terrible. It's lasted 3 months and it's really taken a toll, but we've been able to get everything together, and Laurie has trimmed the budget, and it looks like we're going to be good shape going forward. And I was saying to Alan, you know, we really ought to recognize Laurie for this. He says, yeah, I think it's important. So that was then. But 14 months later, the damn pandemic is still around. We're still fighting that bear. But I think when we look back at what's happened in the last year and going around the town and talking to the people who are involved in the town in every aspect, including the Kennebunkport Conservation Trust and the Housing Trust, and see the effect that Laurie's efforts have had in making us successful, it goes far beyond that, and you'll see more and more of this from time to time. So I think it's very important that the town recognize that she has brought ways of working together in a productive fashion that makes our town exceptional. And so for that, I congratulate her.
I think we all do. We had a pretty good time last night. Didn't we, Sheila?
Yes, we did. It was a wonderful reception. The chief of police was with us and his wife. We had Allison from our town nurse. We had Tracy, and Alan and I were there, and Lori's whole family was there. They did the presentation. We had a lovely dinner. So, and it was very interesting to see all of the other town managers coming up to Lori and saying congratulations, because this is a big deal. So we're very proud of you, Lori.
Yeah, it was one, and the most important thing, her dad was here.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
that you can't get it better than that. So, congratulations again.
Do you want to say a few words?
I would say, it was very, very kind of you to take the time and effort to nominate me. I was very proud to have, my support team there last night. And really, a manager is only as good as the board they work for. I really, really, really believe that, having worked for a variety of boards over the years. And we are very fortunate in Kennebunkport to have a board that is well connected in the community and is a good conduit to the manager and is supportive of efforts, and that they make a good team, representing many different facets and thoughts. So I really appreciate that, and the work of my staff and the support I've received from other managers across the state over the years.
Very good.
Great.
Very. And we'll move on. Do we have any other hands up? Dave?
I see no other hands up.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, item 4. Consider renewal license, liquor license application submitted by Breakwater Inn and Spa, 127 Ocean Avenue. Staff recommend approval for this license.
Second.
And let's take a vote. And that's Pat Briggs
Aye.
and Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
and I say aye. All right. Passes. Item 5, approved street opening permit submitted by Marlene Rome, 24 Main Street, to replace water line as recommended by KKW. Mike Claus has approved this street permit for replacement of a water line at the recommendation of KKW. The excavation will actually occur on School Street in the sidewalk only.
Sounds
Do we
like we
need-
better approve it. So moved.
Second.
And the vote, Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
and I approve, unanimous. Item 6, consider request for fiscal year 2021 carry forwards. Laurie, do you want to take this?
Sure, Jen, I was just gonna ask Jen to come up. So
Okay.
this is the annual carry forward request that we bring to the Board of Selectmen. So you have a list in your packet. I believe it totals around
2878.
228. I think I got my papers out of order here. 228, and I think that Jen was reviewing our year-end numbers, and although they are not final yet, we certainly were able to have some positive outcomes financially. The board and budget committee budgeted conservatively in terms of our revenue projections, and we ended up coming in about $895,000 over our revenue projections. And we came in about $840,000 under our expenditures. Certainly most of the year we were in a spending freeze, trying to really limit that, not knowing the impact. We also were able to secure about $160,000 in grant revenues. So because we were so conservative, we really put some things off that we would like to attend to. And so out of I think we're about 1.7 million under budget. We'd like to carry forward these funds. I don't know if Jen has anything to add on kind of the highlights of those numbers or.
No, unless anybody has any questions.
No, I think you guys did a good job.
Where does the rest of the money go?
Your retirement account, Mike.
Ah, there you go.
You want to answer that, Jen?
Sure, it would go to the undesignated fund balance, and then we would use our undesignated fund balance policy and move some money over to the capital account, to the reserve.
Okay,
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve the FY21 carryovers in the amount of $228,784.
Second.
First and second. Pat,
Yes.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
aye.
and Alan,
Aye.
and Sheila approves. So it's unanimous again.
Thank you.
Item 7, award bid for village parcel engineering services. And that would be, Lori, do you want to explain?
Sure. So and we can bring Eric up and Chris, but I did ask our staff to put out an RFP with a few engineering firms to look at the cost of utilities and road construction for the village parcel. As you know, as part of the village parcel visioning process, the consultants did an analysis and they basically came up with a cost estimate of $1,000 per linear foot to put utilities and the final road work in on the village parcel. We also discussed a phased approach, leaving some of that land for the future. And so phase 1 would bring utilities in about a third of the way. And because the village parcel already had some drainage work and some rough road work done, it would really be, I think, beneficial to the town to understand what those costs actually would be and what's entailed, and to update the road grades and survey information. That is information that would help us better understand the costs required, as well as planning for the future. It's work that regardless of when that road and those utilities are put in, it would be beneficial. So Eric put that proposal out and met with 3 engineering firms. He did receive the proposals back today. And so I'll let Eric, and if Werner's here too, he could come up and Eric can give you an overview of where we are with those proposals.
Yeah, so we selected 3 firms that we knew could do the work. Gold Palmer had done the work on the original design of that village parcel, as well as Acorn has done work with Werner as well, and Mainland that I've worked with as well. So we felt comfortable with those 3 firms. We received proposals from 2 of them, which is Coral Palmer and Acorn. Mainland opted out of proposing, thinking that there's certain advantages to the knowledge, local knowledge, if you will. So Acorn appears to be the low bidder. You have to understand that we're awarding low bid to phase A and B, which. So what we've asked for is to have costs for the construction of the initial road to be built, a construction estimate, if you will. And secondly, is actually to put it out to bid and actually get it constructed. So we're asking them to provide us costs all the way through to bid administration. And we want to do that just so that we had a better handle on what the costs would be moving forward. So 1, we want to know what the cost of constructing is. And 2, we want to know what the engineering costs are associated with those.
We're also talking about utilities too, correct, Eric?
Yes, yes, exactly, yes. We're looking for a full build out of that road to parcel D that was in the, in the vision.
It would really take us to parcel C and D, about a third of the way in.
Be a good start.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta happen. Pat?
Yes, I picked up the package this afternoon and was going through it for over half an hour between comparing the proposals from the Coral, Palmer, and Acorn. And even though the Acorn engineering came in slightly less, when I go through the package, I'm reading things that they are excluding that are included in the Coral Palmer price. And I was wondering, am I reading it right, or what the situation is? Because I'm not sure. I need someone who has talked or worked with these two companies closer, because I'm not sure I understand, exactly what. I don't want to make a comparison that's not valid, if you will. But I was looking through there, and under the scope of services, I was surprised to see that there are so many things that were included in the Goro Palmer, which was slightly higher, but the Acorn proposal obviously excluded them in saying that a variety of services would be then referred to a company for input. And I'm trying to find the exact page. Under the scope of services, it talks about, if you want to have variance applications or agency reviews and responses, environmental site assessments, stormwater management, you go to an outside consultant. And there's just 4 or 5 different systems that are part of the design that they would refer to an outside consultant. Well, that, if you read what, as I see in their proposal, these are add-ons. So if you add on those expenses to the lower price of $38,000, I think you're very rapidly, 33,000, you're going to go right over 38,000. I don't know what the right approach is to it, but I wanted somebody else to take a look at that and see if that is, because I want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. Anybody else got a thought on it?
Have that page.
The biggest thing there was the $15,000 for permitting. I think
So-
Acorn had nothing in there for permitting.
Yeah.
And there was $15,000 in there for permitting. So I think that's what the biggest difference was.
Yeah, Eric and Werner, can you just talk about the permitting piece, because they were addressed differently in the proposals, and the net, cost that we're looking at and where we are with permitting?
Yeah, so what I asked for in the proposal was an allocation for permitting. So what happens is the NARPA permits, and I don't want to get into all the weeds of the environmental permitting that's associated, but I said, provide us an allocation. There's some question as to how much permitting will be required afterwards. So what I did as part of the proposals is I removed the permitting out. And I said, that's not part of because it's not, quite frankly, it's not fair to the firms to try to, determine how much permitting. If it has to go to planning board, so on and so forth, it's a completely, larger animal at that point. It can require a lot more permitting. So what I asked for is provide an allocation. So one firm provided 5,000, the other firm provided 15,000 for permitting. I pulled those numbers out because it's just not an equitable way of looking at it, but at least it's for us to understand what they feel was going to be required for permitting. That's the reason I put it.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the permitting and?
Sure.
Yeah, so we have NERPA permit.
Yeah, Werner's going to update them.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So as part of this process, I reached out to, the two agencies that we're primarily referring to here, and that's the Maine DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, and just had some discussions with folks out of both of those offices that indicate that both the permits that have been issued by Maine DEP and through the Army Corps are currently still valid for the property. So we're operating there under permits that are still valid. However, those timeframes are coming up, and so it's something that we do need to keep an eye on. With a proposed, construction time frame, if we're doing this next year, we'll still be within the window of those permits being valid. Since a lot of the environmental impacts, have been done on the property, and the wetland allocations were dealt with by CDMK, prior to the town owning the property. But I do think, as we look into the future, there will need to be some permitting that will have to be dealt with through those outside agencies, at some point in the future. And I think it's prudent for both of the engineering firms to say, hey, you need to you need to recognize and, think about some funds set aside in the future for maybe having to address, what you might have to deal with as far as permitting is concerned with these outside agencies. So I think what we're seeing here is that we're seeing them, you're seeing two different levels of, conservatism relative to, what they think, they may have to expend, but I don't see that necessarily being as part of this project right now, that we'll have to deal with additional permitting with DEP or Army Corps.
So that was the purpose of the RFP, is to say that, listen, this is a soft cost that we understand may be part of moving forward. And I did not want that to be part of the competitive process. So
Forget the competitive process. We're trying to get at a number that may be what we're looking at. So I think I heard both of you say that there would be some kind of permitting involved.
yes, I believe so. I believe there will be.
So don't we have to put some kind of a factor in there for permitting?
Yes, so the number is 15,000 at this point.
Well, I'd like to go back to the only thing I could find that I could compare apples to apples was the item A, and the scope of item A is the first phase. Item B contains everything in the second phase, but the proposal from Goral Palmer gave us a cost of $1,210 to submit the for their price of their scope of work in item A, but the same item and services coming from Acorn were $3,250. So it's over $2,000 more for that. And to me, that was an apples to apples comparison. That was the only thing I could find that I could make sense of. And I apologize, I don't know contracts, but I just want to make sure we're going down the right track. I mean, the prices are so close together. I think if we get a more confident deal that is not going to cost us add-ons, well, that's going to be an extra fee, that's an extra fee. Because it's stated in the Acorn thing, we're going to price this out, time and materials. Well, every time you add something on, it's going to be more money.
Right, and in this case, it is a request for proposal versus, a bid document per se.
Yeah.
And so we are entering a professional relationship with someone, and that work can change and amend as time goes on. But I mean, that's the basic work we want to accomplish. And I think it would be helpful maybe for Eric and Werner to give you any insight into what we think the pros and cons of the two firms are.
Absolutely. I mean, Goral Palmer did do the initial design, and
for the Old Port
Old
Village
Port, yeah.
subdivision.
yeah. So they certainly have a lot of data. The data that was developed is available to us and will be available, and that's one of the stipulations that was in Acorn's proposal was that we provide them all the AutoCAD plans of the original design. And I believe Warner, I think you provided us all that data at this point. So, so I think we're whole in that front. To Acorn, they're both competent firms. That's was one of those challenging things where, I think, when you have a service contract, it's really the level of effort that's, necessary to get accomplished what you want to get done. And firms will evaluate what they feel that level of effort is. I mean, their employees are being paid relatively the same, and they will come here and give us a level of effort that they feel is necessary to perform the work. So I would not undermine one or the other and say, one is crazy and the other one's not. And quite frankly, they're within $5,000. The question is, what's the level of effort necessary? What's the lift, if you will?
Well, the other thing that I was looking at was the fact that I don't know which firm is larger, but it seemed to me that Goral Palmer didn't have to go outside of the firm. They had the talent within the firm and the expertise to provide what we needed. Whereas they would say, well, Acorn said, well, we'll hire somebody to do that for us. So what's the story there?
I think what they were referring to is they were going to hire, I believe, Kuhlmandahl and Dow to actually do the survey. So which part of the proposal required them to actually hire a survey firm, and neither one of them has a survey on board. So, however, they will have to hire someone to go and do an existing condition survey, which is what was part of the requirement of the RFP. So that was part of their bid.
Who are you recommending?
Right now,
Werner, do you want to give any feedback? You've worked with both firms.
Sure. Yeah, so, as Eric said, Goral Palmer has a unique advantage in that they were the design engineer for the project initially, and so they're certainly familiar with the documents they produced and the process that they, were a part of back when Old Port Village was approved. I would say, another advantage, to Goral Palmer is, and as you've noted, that they have a lot of the staff in-house. The mechanical folks, they've spelled all of that out that they have in-house. From what I saw in Acorn's proposal, they would be subbing some of that out to an outside firm. Both of them would be subbing out to outside firms the survey work. So to some extent, they're all subbing some of that work out and then bringing it back in. Acorn has a relationship with Grondin, who did the work on site. So there's a little bit of an advantage there in getting maybe a better understanding of what's on site in terms of all the the locations and the cross culverts and potentially even some some of the sewer work that may have been laid. So there's an advantage to getting some of that knowledge. So again, there's, they're both good firms in that regard. They both do projects in southern Maine, and so they're familiar with the construction costs, that are going to be around there. And I think either one of them would do a good job for us. Goral Palmer is a bigger company for sure. So you do have the advantages and disadvantages that come along with a bigger firm with maybe more fixed costs and policies. Acorn, I've worked with Acorn for a number of years now. They've been the firm that I've used for all of the planning board peer reviews. So anytime a project comes through for a stormwater review, I've used Acorn as a peer review engineer, and I've been satisfied with their work that they've done. They've been good to deal with there. They've also been the ones doing construction inspections for us for the different subdivisions that have been going on in town, and they've been doing a good job for us there. So, yes, I've been satisfied with their work. So,
So who are you guys recommending?
If we're basing it on price, right now Acorn is advantageous. I guess they would buy about $5,000.
Well,
So,
you know, what I'm looking at is cost overruns in the future. And I'm looking at the different size and the capabilities of the companies and, you know, who is less likely to be adding on costs going forward. Because when we sign a contract with Acorn, we're stating in there, as far as I can tell, that, yeah, okay, you got to go out and get a quote on that. We understand it's going to be on our nickel or dime in this case.
right. Understood. And right, I think there are two established firms, is the best as I could say. And you know, and what we base the current bid on, and the reason we reached out to three firms that I personally know that are capable of completing the work that we were looking for. Competitively, I would tell you that scope A and B, Acorn obviously was more competitive by about $5,000.
Well,
And
no, I understand that. I mean, that's the way it looks right now. But when you look at the references in there, you said that Coral Palmer had the experience on the site, and they knew where the drainage ditches were. They knew what the infrastructure that was there that they were dealing with.
Yes.
Well, Goral Palmer did the design work and Acorn did the inspection work. So they both have experience with the site.
Okay.
so,
I think what staff is struggling with is that they feel confident with both. They both have pros and cons. They don't have a recommendation one way or the other, except to say Acorn came in lower in terms of their cost proposal.
Well, can Acorn kind of give us some kind of a estimate on the other, that they said that, you know, they would do it, but there would be extra charges? Can they find out what an estimate would be to so we could kind of compare a little better?
based on my review of the proposals, Selectmen, is that that they were somewhat comparable. There was a little bit of discussion around contract language, but meaning that I think they would like the town, and I think both firms would like the town to provide the contracts.
So in terms of cost, Acorn did come under the cost. The only thing that is a variable in terms of cost on both firms is the permitting. And the permitting depends on when we complete construction. So our current permits have a deadline on them. And if the town does not continue work on the road, which is not something we're prepared to set a deadline at this point, they're saying you could have to start over with permitting. If the town undertook the construction in the near future, you may be good to move forward with permitting. So that's why the permitting number is such a variable, because they don't know when those things are going to happen and what permitting will be required then. If you have to start over and rules change, environmental rules, there are a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. So I think the costs have been fairly fixed. It's just their guess on what the permitting cost might be, and that'll be determined on when we move forward.
I make a motion that we accept the bid of Acorn.
Second.
All right, taking the call. Pat?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
All right,
And Sheila says aye. Motion passes. Item 8, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Item 8, award bid for a reversible one-way highway plow. Staff requests quotes. Staff requested quotes for a plow for the new tandem axle truck. We received 3 quotes. Viking CIVES Sives, $8,250. HP Fairfield, $9,750. Allied Equipment, $12,850. Mike, we'll put you in a seat.
Well, we already have 2 of those Viking plows and on our current trucks, so since we like that plow, we'd like to just stick with the Viking plow, and that's the low bid. The other two are very similar plows. I just think it's steel pricing has gone up so much that the cost for the manufacturers is varying.
Can you explain to me what a reversible one-way highway plow is? I know it's a plow, but how does it work?
Well, it's a funnel plow, so it'll shoot the snow off the road better if it's going at a higher speed, like on North Street or Route 9, when it's picking up a lot of snow. It does a better job plowing, and it's a little heavier too. It's all steel, so it scrapes better. And it can, by reversible, that means when he's at an intersection, he can turn the plow either way to clean out an intersection.
So moved.
Second.
And I'll take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
We on 9?
Yep.
All right, 9, discussion regarding proposed change to location of Cape Porpoise Pump Station. And that would be Chris
And Eric,
and Eric.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. So we just kind of wanted to provide everybody with an update regarding the design work. We are nearing the end of the design for the Cape Porpoise Pump Station. And one of the things that we tried to think about when we were designing this station is some of the operational challenges that we've had in the past. One challenge in particular with the station is being able to clean the wet well effectively. Typically, we'll clean wet wells once or twice a year, sometimes more as needed. We do this by having a Vector truck come in and clean the wet wells. The problem with that station is the wet well is so deep. It's about 30 feet deep. And the real working limit of the Vector trucks is 25 feet. So that has presented a challenge for us in the past. And it was something that we wanted to address, and we looked at how we could address that. In your packets, we did provide kind of a diagram as to what we were thinking. There's a kind of a triangular shaped lot behind the current pump station, in between the current pump station and Mr. O'Reilly's house. And we were considering, or at least proposing, perhaps moving the new pump station to that piece of land. Doing that would actually end up in a couple of different benefits. One would be that it would lower the height of the wet well so that we could clean it a little bit more effectively. And it would also allow us to keep the current pump station online during construction. So it would kind of eliminate the need for the expensive bypass pumping. And after the construction is complete, we can simply change over to the new station. And then, a third benefit to that would be, you folks all know where that pump station is that we would be able to return the current pump station back to a green space that I think would look quite a bit more presentable than what's there now.
Chris,
Well, you guys did an excellent job in explaining it on site. Both Sheila and I, you did a great job, and I'm fully in favor of it. That's for
It's
sure.
well thought out. It's well thought out.
Yes, and Chris, won't we be able to access it directly from Route 9 Mills Road as opposed to having to go through the fire department? So that will free the fire department up a little bit more parking over there or use of their facilities?
That is correct. Yes, the new driveway would come in off of Mills Road.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I want to thank you and Eric for taking time out of your busy day to meet with myself and I know the other selectmen, because it was very informative.
It's a lot easier when you can see,
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It is.
And you had to meet with us individually since we can't meet as a group or it would be a meeting. So I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Well done. Do I have a motion?
We don't need one, I don't believe.
we just wanted to make sure that as they finish the design work, that you guys are good with that. And if anybody in the public has any questions about it, they can ask.
Next steps for us, Lori, is that we'll need to do geotechnical borings there. So that's part of the reason for this.
Okay.
So while Chris is here, though, we've had a lot of questions from people about the work at the Goose Rocks Beach pump station on Kings Highway in the past week. They've seen a lot of trucks out there. Maybe you guys could just give a little update on what's been going on down there.
Sure. So last year during our weekly pump station checks, we located some damage to the interior wall of that pump station. And it's the pump station that's closer to the intersection of Dyke Road and King Highway. After we looked at that a little bit further, we had Haskell and Hall come out, they're kind of concrete specialists, to look at how we could resolve it. And they attempted to repair it, and when they did so, water started running into the foundation. And just to back up, this is a 2-story pump station, so you'll see one level at ground level, and then the bottom level is what houses the pumps and the pump controls. And they couldn't effectively stop the leak from the inside. This was last year, and then of course with everything going on with the pandemic, we made arrangements to put some extra sump pumps in there to prevent any problems with water getting in. But it was a repair we had to make. So we did excavate on Tuesday, ended up having to excavate quite a bit deeper than we thought. But we did locate the issue on Wednesday, and it was basically just a precast hole that was used during the assembly of the pump station. So that was repaired yesterday, and we've actually backfilled that today, and currently in the trying to put the precast concrete wall back into place. But I would expect that that project should be fully completed either tomorrow or certainly on Monday.
So just to clarify, Chris, this is basically the foundation wall of the structure. It did not have any sewer or flow in there that would have leaked out into the marsh. Nothing was leaking into the marsh or into the marsh. It was just water seeping into our foundation structure.
That's correct. The foundation is actually separate than the wet well that takes in all of the raw wastewater. So it's actually 2 different structures. This is a structure for the building. There was no release of sewer whatsoever. This is simply tidal water coming into the station.
So are you gonna, is this something that you have to do right away, or?
We've actually already done it.
Already done it, okay.
So it's all fixed. It's just people saw a lot of trucks out there all week working, and we've gotten a lot of questions, so I thought we just let people know what's going on.
Thank you. All right, I thought that was just gonna be the project.
That's good news, Chris, because I know we talked about that last winter, last fall, about issues down there. So it sounds like you guys have got a good handle and hopefully resolve the issues.
No, the highway crew is great. They came out and devoted the whole week to us. And, rather than calling in a contractor to do the job, although the job did end up being a little bit bigger than we thought it was, the guys were able to work through it. So hats off to the highway department and guys at wastewater for dedicating all their effort to it this week. It was a good project to get done. So
yeah, highway's great. They've done saved us a lot of money around town.
yes.
Very good, very good.
And if the fixing the roads and all that doesn't work out, they did such a good job on our softball field that maybe they can go into business on the side.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 10, authorized bond resolution for community communications tower project.
So I'll bring Craig up.
Yeah.
But basically, these 2 bond resolutions are allowing us, the selectmen, to resolve to move forward with the bond, and it allows us to get reimburse ourselves from the bond for any expenses we're incurring in advance. And so, Craig, I don't know if you want to give them just a brief update on where we are with the communications project.
Yeah, right now, well, we met with our communications equipment vendor, and we're trying to get some questions answered and finalize prices and numbers, and we'll be bringing something forward to the board for a final approval.
And we also did some geotechnical work on where the two towers would be.
Yes,
And-
and we were able to get a report back, and both places look like they're gonna be good to go, both at Goose Rocks Fire Station and at wastewater.
Great. Do you need a motion, Lori? Because I see a motion on here.
Yes, this motion has to be specific because this is a legal document.
Okay, would you like me to read it?
I would love that.
All right, well then, for number 10, I make a motion that resolution entitled, Resolution to Authorize Town of Kennebunkport to issue $1 million in bonds for public safety radio communications improvements be adopted in form presented to this meeting, and that an attested copy of said resolution be filed with the minutes of this meeting.
I have
Second.
taking a roll. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
I,
and Sheila, aye. It's unanimous, and I think it's well needed.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Craig. Item 11, authorized bond resolution for wastewater capital projects.
So this is similar, it's just for the wastewater projects. I don't know if you want Chris to give you an update on where we are with those, but he's been doing it along the way.
Right.
I was gonna say, I think we got some the other day when I met with him, but if it's okay, I'll make the motion. I'd like to make a motion that the resolution entitled Resolution to Authorize Town of Kennebunkport to issue $6 million in bonds for wastewater capital projects be adopted in form presented to this meeting, and that an attested copy of said resolution be filed with the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
And I will take roll call. And that would be Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
I,
and Sheila, aye. This is going to be a big project, but it looks like it's going well.
Yes.
We are on 12. Yep. Consider offer from Kennebunkport Climate Initiative for the purchase of town land. And that would be Lori to introduce.
Yeah,
John?
so we have Jono and Doug Johnston in the audience, and so we'd like to bring them up as panelists. And Werner, hello Werner. And Jono, as you will remember, is the executive director of the Kennebunkport Climate Initiative. Doug Johnston is their architect. And so the Kennebunkport Climate Initiative has come forward and stated that they would really like their new headquarters that they have been discussing and looking for a location throughout town. Looked at several sites, and they would really like to be on the village parcel. They've come forward with a proposal for $2.3 million for Lot D on our parcel, with the hopes of building their headquarters there, and understanding that the town would be responsible for putting the infrastructure in so that the headquarters could be in place. Normally, in a case like this, a property, somebody who purchases property might be responsible for their portion of the infrastructure. But in this case, KCI is willing to fund the entire cost of infrastructure for the first phase of the village parcel. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jono to let him talk about KCI's intentions and why they're interested in the village parcel.
Thank you so much, Lori. Again, congratulations on the award. And thanks to the Selectmen for allowing us this opportunity, both to present tonight, but also the continued interest in really embedding our Kennebunkport Climate Initiative headquarters here in Kennebunkport, where we started. Lori, is it okay to show a couple of visuals?
Sure.
If I could cue the visuals in my section of the packet, I'll just walk through very briefly some of the highlights that we are very fortunate to be working with William Ron Associates. Many of you may know Doug Johnston, who is a Kennebunkport resident and also a brilliant architect, as we've been thinking about a way to create the Kennebunkport Climate Initiative headquarters here in town. Let me see if I can get the visuals queued up. Or is there somebody magically behind the scenes orchestrating?
There is. Dave is.
That would be me. You should be able to show your screen.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me just do a quick pause here. Awesome. All right. Confirm that it's on the site.
You're up.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So just a couple of minutes to explain what we're thinking. Many of you that have heard me at a previous Selectmen meeting have talked about this idea of empowering youth voices in a nonpartisan way around climate action. And really what we're hoping for with this building is a modest New England vernacular that really embodies climate responsibility. So we can imagine whether it be a LEED certification or other really cutting edge technology that would allow us to be able to demonstrate that the building is best in class to help reduce carbon emissions. And really the idea was to design something very much in line with the village parcel report, making sure that where the town was envisioning this property to really be manifesting itself, that this building could likely be a part of. We love the idea of connecting the building to the outdoors, which we read very clearly in the village parcel final report. And really, as I mentioned earlier, what we're calling elegant frugality. So it's not an ostentatious 3-story building, but really a modest structure relative to the needs of our programming at the Kennebunkport Climate Initiative. So you'll see this kind of connected barn concept as I show you some of the visuals. We also hope that it will be a place that the community wants to be. We've designed this space intentionally to be connected with other organizations, youth that may need space to dialogue or to perform art and other creative talents, whether it's directly related to climate or not. We wanted to create that sense of community space that could allow for other organizations to call us and to say that they need space for hosting 50, 60 individuals. So that idea of shared space was really important for us. Talk about how important it was for the youth that helped us think of this design with Doug Johnston and his team in thinking about how we were going to present the space. As Lori mentioned, we're very interested in purchase of town parcel land, and that site I'll show you here. You all know this geography much better than I, so I will not spend time going into the details of the site context. But in particular, as Lori mentioned, we do have the ability to fund, to provide that anchoring investment in the community that we feel hopefully will allow for the town through a discernment process to consider what goes beyond Site D, and for us to be able to cover those infrastructure costs up to Site D was something that we were very fortunate to be able to offer thanks to several benefactors. And where we were thinking with the actual lot 36 and 35 is really using the land and building around the nature in a way that really honors that nature and the wetlands in particular. And what you'll see on the next slide is trying to mindfully plan around the wetlands to protect those and possibly to propose through the town, subject to approval, is this idea of having parking, modest parking in back, and then our KCI headquarters building towards the front yard setback And again, really building and keeping as much of the beauty and aesthetic of that property and parcel that we're able to do. The building itself, we're not a super large organization. For many of you that have been following us, that really started as an idea through the Gulf of Maine Field Studies course with the Kennebunkport High School and Gulf of Maine Field Studies students at UNE, was really this idea that has blossomed to roughly 17 staff, of which a handful are here in Maine. So the headquarters is this modest vernacular that allows our administrative staff to anchor our programs both here in Maine. We love partnering with the town of Kennebunkport on climate initiative projects, but also provide remote support to our staff that are now all the way from Guam to California to here on the East Coast. So total gross square footage you can see is approximately 8,600. So nothing too large. We believe that we can function with that size and structure based off the type of programming that we're doing. And I'll emphasize again, this large meeting room concept and forum hub. We would love for other community partners to say, we have nowhere to go, or if there's a Rotary meeting and they need an alternative space, or whatever the group is, and they say they'd like to use the Kennebunkport Climate Initiative space, that's very important for us to keep that open to the public. Right now, all of the slides say draft because we're very hopeful that each and every one of you may have ideas on how to make for the very best vernacular structure and experience if we are so lucky to move forward with this project on the parcel. So this is just a mock-up of where we see the building fitting within that free enterprise zone on lot 36 with parking on lot 35, kind of broken up with several administrative offices, and then importantly, towards the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see lots of the community space with 2 separate entrances to allow for even after-hours functions well beyond when administrative staff may be actually working. And this is just a little close-up, really kind of noticing the anchoring points that stem from the administrative offices on the left and the community and shared space on the right. And last but not least, this is a picture of our very amazing experience with the high school and college youth. We held a design session with Doug Johnston and the architects from his firm, really to make this a youth-led design process as well. What were some of the spaces that inspired them? They talked about really even designing things such as a community garden that could then use the food to donate to the COS. So again, another reason that we're keeping this in draft mode is we're asking youth what inspires them? What does community feel like? And importantly, based off of the vision well before KCI was KCI of what the Village Parcel Planning Committee really embodied in their final report, making sure that we meet that mark when we're designing the final structure. So this is just a couple of pictures from that design session that we did a couple weeks back. And I'll pause there, Lori, just to see if there are any questions or comments from the selectmen or others.
Hey, John, I have a question for you. And I hope I'm not too off topic, but oftentimes we see projects permitted and then sometimes uses come up that we did not anticipate. You've talked and mentioned several times about opening this building to other organizations and to the public, et cetera. But you have no intention, I hope, of turning it into a wedding venue or some sort of commercial. Thank you. You know, kind of like what, and then the reason I ask is I know KCT does that, and you know, that's certainly their prerogative, that's their land, et cetera, but that is certainly nothing that the community want to see here. I love the idea that you want to open it up to other groups, you know, other nonprofits in town, but I would hope that you would not have other commercial interests other than that.
That's an excellent point, Ed. Thank you for asking that. That is certainly not the intention. In fact, our boards talked about really using the umbrella of educational purposes. So if it were for a community reading session or a community dialogue with youth, or some of the youth said they love to do poetry readings, if there was a modest stage, but nothing in terms of commercial use, nor what we would consider revenue generating for cost recovery. We'd worked very closely with Warner and Lori just to make sure that the educational umbrella is clearly defined in terms of the acceptable uses and also the intent of the village parcel final report.
That's terrific. I commend you wholeheartedly on wanting to open up your, hopefully your future facility, to the community, not just climate related, but, broader community support. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Explained it quite well, thank you.
I don't know if anybody in the public has any questions.
I don't see any hands up. I would like to be
Hands
clear
up.
in case the public is listening that, I think we made it clear earlier, but any purchase and sale agreements that are entered in, may heretofore entered into, will have to be approved by the voters. The earliest, probably November, correct, Lori?
Yeah, so in terms of next steps, if the board were so inclined, then we would need to draft up a purchase and sale agreement that would be contingent upon town meeting approval. And then you guys would need to set a time for the town to vote on it. Just in terms of whether or not, this sale makes sense, we spent a long time in the village parcel visioning process looking at, what the town's interest was. And through that process, I heard that there were a lot of hopes and dreams for this parcel in terms of the town's future. And we also heard that people wanted us to be fiscally aware, and they did not want to make any more investment into the infrastructure, into the parcel. And so I think it really needs to meet two criteria, one being that it makes financial sense, and secondly, that it furthers the interests of Kennebunkport. I think this proposal makes great financial sense when we look at any kind of market analysis of what the land would garner and the infrastructure costs that could be shared. This offers well over that. It also would allow us to open up other parcels for the town, whether it's town hall or other uses that were identified in the village parcel vision. Secondly, climate change is probably, next to affordable housing, one of the biggest issues that Kennebunkport has facing us. Having the attributes that will bring the resources to Kennebunkport and hopefully address some of the challenges we will be facing. Having a very low intensity use on the parcel that would add to the educational opportunities of the community as well as that neighborhood. And a good partner in terms of community space near the town hall, which we've talked about, makes a lot of sense to me, and I think checks off a lot of boxes. Warner, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I can address the the use question. For those who have asked. This use as has been described, really I think fits into two categories that work in the free enterprise zone. And so you have community use, is one of the uses that's a conditional use, but then you also have the use of a professional and business office, which is, really what this is. It's a combination of the two. And both of those are listed as conditional uses in the free enterprise zone. So, and again, we spent some good time with, with the climate initiative, and their professionals that they have, and working together with them. And, I think that this is, that this proposal definitely has some merit.
I'd like to make a motion to ask the town manager, Lori, to draft a purchase and sale agreement for Lot D with KCI for the Board of Selectmen consideration.
Second.
Did I get a
Yes, I did. I don't know if you heard me, Sheila.
second? Thank you. The vote, roll call, Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
All right,
and Sheila says aye. Motion moves, motion is accepted. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you,
Thank you
John.
all. Have a great night.
you too.
You.
Item 13, request from C.R. Bryant regarding a kept parking space along 2 Mast Cove Lane. Lori, do you want to explain?
Yes, in your packet, you have a letter from Mr. Bryant, who houses his business at Mast Cove Gallery, located along Mast Cove Lane. He has asked that one of the spaces along Mast Cove Lane, there's a few parking spots there, be designated as a handicap spot. The parking spots around the library are, of course, on private property, the library's property, and there is one handicap spot there that they really reserve for visitors and patrons. The parking along Mast Cove Lane that's parallel is town public property. We did do an analysis of handicap spots and the ratio of handicap spots to regular parking spots in Dock Square a few years ago. Chief Sanford and Mike Claus and I did that, and we did add some handicap spots at that point. But this is a request from the owner of Mast Cove Gallery, and it's for your consideration.
Well, I'd like to say something about it. As you know, I've been associated with the library for a lot of years, and that strip across the way is public parking. And it is not owned by the gallery, like the parking lot is owned by the library on its side. For some reason, they decided to put a walkway in the middle of one of the, or two of the parking spaces that are public parking by ordinance, instead of having the walkway go from where they've got parking in the driveway for 4 cars, the walkway apparently was put in on the street. But the library has been living with that, with the gallery, for a lot of years. We've had no issues and so forth. With the new owner, there have been a lot of issues. There's been a lot of profanity back and forth and a lot of uncooperation and so forth. I have no problem with designating a handicap parking spot, but I think if there's going to be a handicap parking spot, it needs to be near Main Street, not in the back. It needs to be, this cannot be a handicap parking spot for the owner of the gallery. It needs to be a handicap parking spot for people who park there. So if we're going to go ahead and do this, I would recommend that the handicap parking spot be the furthest one towards Main Street, period. That's makes a lot of sense to me. Now the handicap spot at the library is for library use, but on weekends, afternoon on Saturday, it's for anybody's use till Monday morning at 10 o'clock. So I think, I don't know how many handicap parking spots we have, but if we need another one, then that's where it should be.
I agree with you, Mike, at least in the sense that if we put that handicap parking spot there on Mast Cove Lane, it's really only serves the gallery.
Exactly.
And I'm also concerned that, how do I say this? I guess I'll just say it because that's how I am. I feel as though there's a reason that they want this. Do they have somebody that they want to park there? It just seems a little odd that you would take one of the parking spots out and ask for a handicap spot.
Oh, I don't know about all of
Yeah,
that.
I don't either. It's just something that's floating around in the back of my head, but I wouldn't support putting it on Mass Cove Lane. And if we were to put a handicap spot on Main Street, I don't see that it serves, because there's just the library and they already have handicap parking, and there's the gallery. There's really nothing else there that, you know, if we're going to have handicap spots, they should be accessible to local businesses, or, you know, certainly to the downtown area.
And that is a well-used parking spot. It may very well be that sometimes some people from the library park there, but it is a public parking area by ordinance. And it's the other side is not public parking, but the north side is. So I don't understand the issue really, because there's a parking lot there for the gallery where there people can park. It's not like that. And what's happened over the years, and I would imagine it would continue, is that when the gallery had an event, the library would help them with parking and whatever they were doing, and vice versa. When the gallery had an event, when the library had an event and we needed some spillover parking, we would cooperate with the gallery and they would allow us to park on their spaces in the yard and so forth. So I don't understand what the issue is now, other than the fact that they have some animosity between them or something. I don't know what it is. But Mary Lou's been there for 23 years, and we've never had a real problem with gallery and the library coexisting.
Let's just leave it the way it is.
Chief Sanford is in the audience if anybody has any questions for him.
Chief, now, I think towns are required to have a certain number of handicap parking places, and I think we meet that standard.
Yes, and a couple of years ago, we looked at that ratio, and we actually added more than we actually were required by the state. And when we looked at those handicap spots, we wanted to make sure that if we're doing it for accessibility to the downtown area, that we put it in a location that made it easier. So, putting, another handicap spot across North Street, across Main Street isn't really, something that really makes a whole lot of sense. It's going to require somebody to have to cross the street, to get into the downtown area. So when we looked at that, we tried to really make it so it was accessible and it was, safe for everybody, because it is so crowded in that area. But we do actually meet that, and we added more than we needed to.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I make a motion, we leave it as it is.
Second.
Okay.
Are we taking a vote on this? This is an actual vote?
You're the chairman.
All right, well, let's make it a vote then. Pat?
I oppose designating the parking space there in Mast Cove Lane.
Okay. Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
And Sheila agrees. The motion does not pass.
Oh, the motion passes, but the
Oh, the
motion,
motion request is denied.
correct.
Authorization of union contract for July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. Lori?
If we were near each other, I'd hand you a cough drop.
I've got plenty of them.
Maybe we should give her a COVID test instead.
So I'm pleased to announce to the board that the union has ratified the proposed contract that the town brought before them. We were able to come to agreement on a variety of issues. Basically, the major changes in the contract are a 3% wage increase to stay current with our demanding labor market. We have field training officers for the police that will be paid an additional $40 per week when they are actually training new officers. There is the addition of a half a day holiday for Christmas Eve. And then we added language in to make sure that the town complies with the new earned paid leave as required by the federal government. And we have clarified our grievance language so that it's clear that employees have 5 days to grieve an issue and then 5 days to bring it for the town manager. And this is a 3-year contract.
Any discussion?
Other than the fact that I think that you guys did a great job putting this contract together.
Thank you.
I move we ratify the contract as written.
Second.
And roll call, Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
He's muted, but he said aye. I saw his
Okay.
mouth move.
I'm muted because I've got a lot of visitors here.
my grandkids just came in.
That's what I've got.
Hmm.
Alan?
Aye.
And I agree. Motion carries. Other business. Lori, do you want to go through all of this?
Sure. So in terms of the first item, which was legal advice on the recall of school board officials, the town has been approached by several community members over the past few months asking about whether or not a school board member can be recalled. We have some conflicting language. State law says that a school board member can only be recalled if they have been convicted of a crime while they are in office and the municipality is the victim of the crime. Our administrative code, which is our administrative ordinance, says that any elected official can be recalled basically through a petition process. The issue is that because we are part of a regional school unit, we do elect school board members, but RSU is a separate legal entity. And our ordinance, although it is an administrative code, we call it, it is not a charter. And so it is unclear as to whether or not state law prevails or our administrative ordinance would prevail in this case. Amy Chow, our town attorney, cannot really give us insight into this because she has a conflict of interest as her firm has done work for the RSU, and so it would be a conflict to give advice against the RSU. So we're at the point where I'm not sure how far you want to pursue this. Dealing with the RSU, it would require me to go find another attorney who can give us advice to clarify our position on this. And so I brought it to the board.
Well, I want to understand this. A selectman can be recalled, but a school board member can't be recalled? Is that what we're saying?
What I understand, and I am no expert on recall provisions, but what I understand is because of the regional school unit law that was created, it is an area that probably has not been addressed in the statute. If you remember when RSUs were created under Governor Baldacci, it was done rather quickly, and that there were some maybe missing pieces. So our attorney, when I did ask Amy on a hypothetical viewpoint, I did not get the impression this was a clear-cut case, and that it would take someone some legal investigation to determine which had precedent.
But Lori, do I understand? I think I understand that Kennebunk has that ability to recall a school board member. Is that correct?
You are correct. Kennebunk does have a charter, and so they are different from us in that aspect.
And we don't want a charter.
No, but we need to.
Well,
find
there
out
are
what's
good
not-
things about everything. There's good and bad about everything in life.
Yes, that's true.
And
But we don't want
so,
a charter.
but they have a charter and we don't.
Isn't a charter also the first step in becoming a town council as opposed to a board of selectmen?
No,
It doesn't have to be, no.
no, that chart has been there for quite a while. There's still selectmen.
There are, but they also at one time were trying to become a town council, which would remove a lot of the authority of the members, the voting members of the community.
Yeah, I don't think that, I'd like to see us investigate it though, to see, you know, outside of a charter, whether or not what the recall law really is. I don't think that that's a,
Well, would it be appropriate to refer this to the state level and let the legislature look at it? Because we're probably not the only RSU in the state that would have this issue to deal with. And so fighting it piecemeal might not be productive.
I don't know, Lori would have to answer that. I don't know.
I'm afraid that the only way we're going to find a definitive answer to this is through the law court. I mean, I think that's ultimately where this would end up.
I don't know if it's a court. I think it may be just a legal opinion.
Yeah, I think we would need to start with a legal opinion. If you were to bring this to the legislature, I think they would want background on why legally we think this is an issue they need to address. And you're talking about something that would take 1 or 2 sessions of the legislature. So it wouldn't address the issue before the voters that they've asked at this time.
I'm in favor of moving forward with hiring an attorney to go ahead and just look into this.
I second that.
Is this a voting issue, Lori?
It doesn't have to be, but if you want to vote on it, that's fine.
No, I think if, just we'll give you the direction to
Direction, yeah, okay.
find a good lawyer.
If it doesn't cost us a whole lot of money, I'll go along with it.
Let's do it.
What is a whole lot of money?
Yeah, I know, because I have had several, complaints about this. But you know what I tell people in the end? I said, get us some better candidates. I mean, this is directly aimed at one particular individual.
Oh, I don't know that. I don't know that.
Unfortunately, I do, because I have taken multiple calls. Also, that's the thing. When you grow up here, I have a lot of friends in Kennebunk because they still live here, and have friends here in town that I went through, and their kids are going through the school system, and there's some very upset people out there.
Well, let's just get a legal opinion and give Lori the direction to get it, and let's see what we can do.
Okay. So the next item is voting for the Maine Municipal Association vice president, I should say, and executive committee members. So you have a slate of officers in your packet.
I moved the slate.
Second.
And we will, do we vote on this, Lori?
Yes.
Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Bill says aye. And is that it? No?
No.
Lee,
I just wanted to let you know that we received a check this past week for $5,152 as a dividend from being in the Maine Municipal Association risk pool. So we use them for workers' comp as well as property and casualty. And based on the pool's overall experience as well as the town's, we did get some of our premium back. So that was good news.
Well, there we get some money for our attorney.
There you go. See, it comes in one hand and it goes out.
The other. Yeah.
Right.
I learned a long time ago, it's not my money or the town's money. We're just holding it for the next person.
that's good.
So last, I wanted to update you on the Colony Beach jetty repairs and make sure that the town was aware that we have been told that next week, starting on Monday, that the contractor may be on site beginning those repairs. They have until July 1st. I'm sorry, not July 1st, January 1st of 2022 to complete those repairs according to their contract with the Army Corps. We don't know how long that will take actually, but the parking lot will be closed off when they arrive. So we'll continue to update you. I did ask the Army Corps earlier this week whether they still think August 16th is the date that they'll close it off. And I have not received any feedback from them. So that's the best information I have at this time.
Well, at least we got the most of the summer to use the beach and the parking lot. Originally, they wanted to start it in July, didn't they?
It was June.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Also, we are looking at fireworks for the September Labor Day weekend. And so normally we would have Colony Beach parking lot as our handicap parking area. And so Chief Sanford has already been looking for another spot, and he told me that St. Anne's has agreed to allow handicap parking there for us for that event. So we are working on solutions to challenges.
And as to speaking of the fireworks, how are we going to keep people out of the beach itself during the fireworks? I don't think the Army Corps wants us, wants civilians climbing all over the breakwater while they're reconstructing it.
Yeah, it's something that we discussed at our pre-construction meeting, and I informed them of that, and so they said that they would continue to work with us, the contractor, on that as it gets closer.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
All right, and Ed, do you have anything?
No, thank you. Well, actually, I just would like to congratulate Lori again, and I apologize that I was not there yesterday. I had to work, but that's a tremendous honor, and I'm very. It's been a very great experience, speaking for myself, to have worked with you for these last 8 years, I guess it is, and you've certainly made me grow as both as a human being and as a selectman. And I'm very, very grateful to have you working for the town of Kennebunkport.
Nicely said.
That's very kind of you.
Pat?
No, I have nothing further to add to my accolades for Lori, but go ahead.
Mike?
I gave my congratulations to Lori via text, and I feel the same way that Ed does, and wished I could have been there last night, but this spine of mine does not allow a lot of writing like that. So, but I was there in spirit, and boy, am I happy for Lori.
Yeah, it's not just Lori's award, it's the town's award too, if I may say that. I mean,
I just
I think everybody's happy.
yeah,
her head has got to be the same size so she can make it through the door.
that's right.
That's all.
Alan?
Nothing, thank you.
And I want to say it was worth the 3 hours. The drive up there,
Wait, was that one way, Sheila?
one way.
She snored all the way home. I mean, she kept me awake. What can I say?
Good thing, right?
Yeah, I was tired, but I had a great time.
I hope that picture you sent me, Alan, wasn't the one that's gone to the press.
Right.
You'll be
I couldn't help myself. That's all I gotta say.
It's the
Just
kid in
couldn't help
you.
myself.
It's the kid in you, you know.
And I also congratulate you again, and I have nothing further.
No. Then I will move the warrants.
Thank you.
Warrants. Ed,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
says aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved, second, third.
And Ed,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
and Sheila says aye. Thank you, everyone.
Good job, Sheila.
Thank
Been a
you.
good, I'm getting through my places here, but
It's just got to work the kinks out. That's all.
getting a little easier. But thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
You guys have a good